Hey Jess,
Hi, Bree.
how are you doing?
Not too bad today. Just did a little cleaning, went to church. You
My church
know,
was canceled today.
weather.
We did online. We streamed it online. I didn't look at it yet, but yeah, so I think it's go in person, but
Oh.
it's okay. It's still with you. So today we're talking about accountability.
That's an interesting. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good, a good one. I feel like there's two. I don't know. When I think about accountability, right? I feel like
hmm
there's like personal accountability, and then I also feel like there's accountability where you're like you have someone to be accountable to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree.
Mhm.
There's like both accountabilities, but I was just thinking like, is there one that's greater than the other, or is it just the same?
No. Okay. So I don't think that one is, what did you say, greater?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think one is greater than the other. I just think that they're like two separate types of accountability, you know?
Yeah.
Just because like if someone's over you, then there's someone that or like if there's someone that you have to be accountable to, then it's like automatic. Like you automatically have someone that you have to answer to. But then there's
Yeah.
like another form of accountability that I feel like is the personal side where you can choose to if you're going to be accountable or not, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
yeah. But I
Yeah, I
don't think there's one
understand.
greater than the other. No. I think they're both important.
Yeah. I when I think about accountability, I think about like taking responsibility for something.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's hard for a lot of people to take accountability for stuff. And that's why there's always like disagreements. Because I feel like some disagreements don't have to be disagreements. Like if one person would
Mhm.
just take accountability for something, and it could be something as simple as just like the way you made someone feel, which granted, sometimes it's a them problem, but sometimes it is like, okay, I came off wrong or I did something unintentional or whatever. But I feel like that's just a struggle for a lot of people to take accountability and to realize that taking accountability, in a lot of cases, you're wrong if you're taking accountability. But sometimes if you're taking accountability, it's just like saying like, okay, that's something I could do different, or that's something I could work on or grow in or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah. I think it's so hard sometimes because I think people in general, we like don't want to be wrong, you know? And our pride can get in the way
Yeah.
a lot of times. Um,
Mhm.
and so it stops us from wanting to even be like, you know what? I was wrong. It's definitely a pride thing. I think pride and being able to like be humble, when it comes to
Yeah.
accountability. Yeah.
Definitely have to be humble.
Yeah.
Because
And
to be able
even
to, like, lower yourself enough to realize that you need to be accountable and, like, apologize or make something right or just take ownership, yeah,
mhm.
that's a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, and I feel like even if you don't feel like you are in the wrong, you
Mhm.
know? And I think that's a challenge too because you can take accountability for your actions and just being like, "Hey, I see that what I did may have like affected you and I'm aware of how my actions made you respond this way or that way." Um but that's another part of it, like, you just don't I feel like it's just hard to even if you know that maybe, like, what you did wasn't you were right and because sometimes you could be right and the other person are just people have their different opinions, but at the end of the day, we don't want to, like, feel like we had to, like, be beneath,
Yeah. Mhm.
beneath someone else, or like my feelings had to like take second to someone else's.
Mhm. I think that is like the biggest struggle is feeling like how you felt didn't matter.
Mhm.
And I think you have to look at it differently though, because that's not even in my opinion, I don't feel like that's really even what taking accountability is meaning. Like I feel like it's meaning like I'm mature enough and I'm big enough to recognize whatever it is not worth it. And even if I
Yeah.
do deem it to be worth it, once again, letting the Lord fight your battles, just washing your hands and keeping your hands clean and knowing like I'm just gonna be accountable.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I feel like accountability helps you grow, if
It
anything.
does. It does. Do we know the actual definition of accountability? Or
I can look it up.
because like I'm just like thinking in general that if we kind of think about the upside to it, I feel like that would make it sometimes easier for us to
Mhm.
like embrace having accountability, because if you're going to have accountability, it's because that you are holding yourself to some form of standard, you know?
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's a good thing.
It is. It really is. The
Like,
definition
that's
of
a good thing.
accountability
Mhm.
is the fact or condition of being accountable responsibility. So basically being
Okay.
responsible.
Yeah, being responsible. But yeah,
Yeah.
that like it's a good thing for you to have someone that is going to like keep you in check.
Mhm.
And not in a way of like, oh, not just being like, oh, I'm grown, like nobody can tell me nothing. But
Mhm.
like in check as in, I want the best for you,
Mhm.
and I know where you're headed, or like what you're trying to do, and like, hey, these actions that you're doing right now, like they don't align with the bigger picture, and it's good to have
Mhm.
people in your life that aren't just going to be like yes men and are just always
Absolutely.
on board with every single thing, even if like it's not a good thing. If you have people like that in your life, like they don't ever question anything, because sometimes you're just wrong. Sometimes
Mhm.
I'm just wrong. Like, you might want to check the people that you have around you, because that's not good,
It's
honestly.
really not.
No matter how
It's
it like
really not.
makes you feel in the moment, but like if we think about the bigger picture, it's not
Mhm.
good.
No. I think about the pastor that brought in New Year's and he was playing the worldly music in the church and like everybody had opinions and thoughts about that. And I just think about his response to it. In my opinion, there was no accountability taken in his response. It was just kind of like so much pride and like I did what I thought was best and there was nothing wrong
Mhm,
with it. But I feel
mhm,
like that's an example of someone having to take accountability because of the position you're in. So you're being accountable to the people that are under you. You know what I'm saying? Like people that go to your church, people that follow you, and we see that a lot with like a lot of influencers and celebrities, like just not taking accountability for stuff. Sometimes
mhm.
they'll give their like basic apology statements, but sometimes people just really don't take accountability. And especially if you have a platform or you have like just a place of leadership that you're in, that's
Yeah,
important for the people that are supporting you to be able to see that you
yeah,
can take accountability because a
yeah.
good leader is an even better servant. And
Mhm,
accountability is a part of serving people, I feel like.
mhm. Always think of like, to whom much is given, much is required.
Mhm.
And when you are in a position to have a lot of eyes on you, and especially like if you are a leader of some sort, and that's not even just like in the Christian side of things, just in general, it's like at some point you have to realize that, the things that you do in front of the mass, like you're going to have to be accountable for it.
Mhm.
And even if you, like I said, even if you don't feel as though what you did was wrong, sometimes it's just a matter of like how you respond to people. And
Yeah.
then a lot of times that's a character thing.
Mhm. Says a lot about people's character.
It it does say a lot about people's character because sometimes people, like I said before, sometimes people are better off just not saying anything at all sometimes.
Yeah. 'Cause the
Because
minute they
it just
start talking.
makes the situation worse.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And being able to take accountability, like you said, outside of, you know, other people, but yourself, that helps you grow and it helps you become a better person. Because if I can't admit to myself when I'm wrong about something or admit to myself and like I could have handled something differently,
Mhm.
that's just pride.
Yeah.
Like, cause what? Like I could think of an example that I can give of like me having to take accountability is when I think about, my co-parenting situation with my
Mhm.
son's father. Like, it had to get to a point where I had to just look at myself. Like, you can't always point the blame at the other person, like, "Well, if they would've did this different or if they would have not done this." But being able
Yeah.
to look at myself and say, "Okay, am I blameless? Like, can I just 100% say, like, there's absolutely nothing I could have done different. There's no way I could have communicated better or anything like that." So just having to be
Mhm.
able to look in situations at yourself first to figure out, like,
Mhm.
what can you do differently? Because if your hands aren't clean, then how you expect somebody else to take accountability for something, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, we gotta do a lot of self-evaluating when
Mhm.
it comes to accountability. And and then that also makes me think that, yes, it is good to have, um it is good to have, like, people over you,
Mhm.
depending on whatever the situation is. Like, with work and stuff, we have people over us and stuff all the time.
Mhm.
But, at some point, it's like, "Okay, but you know what's right and what's
Mhm.
wrong, and we are adults." And
Yeah.
sometimes you would think that personal accountability is enough, but the reality is that when you have to be, like, accountable to other people, I think that sometimes it just holds you to a higher standard, because
Mhm.
it's easy to when it comes to yourself, it's easy to just be like, "Okay, I'll try again next time." But when you have
Mhm.
people that you allow to, like, actually, like, speak into your life and that you give, like, that access to, like, "Hey, hold me accountable," I just feel like that just takes it to a whole nother level, because then it's like I don't wanna just, like, let myself down, but I don't wanna let down those that are also connected to me. And
Mhm.
sometimes it just takes more than just personal accountability, and I think that it's okay to realize that it's okay to be also accountable to other people, because I think we all should know that life is, like, not it's not good to be alone and to single yourself out all the time. Yeah. So,
Yeah. How do you think people, like, can take accountability?
I think it first starts with just, like, being honest with yourself, and honest with, like, how can I explain this? Yeah, just being honest with yourself that, no, you're not always right, or we're not always right. And then secondly, it just comes to, like, being able to, like, walk in humility with that
Mhm.
honesty. And then also being able to, like, open yourself up to, being able to say, "I was wrong," or "This is what I did," or "This is how I made you feel, and I'm aware of that."
Yeah, I agree. It definitely takes humility. I also feel like
Mm.
it takes self-awareness because some
Mhm.
people don't even feel like they did anything to be accountable for.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's like that's a whole nother situation. Like to not even be self-aware enough to realize like maybe I should look at myself and see like what I could have done.
Social media culture and stuff now,
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people are like calling people out, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel as though, so I personally I don't like accounts that get
That's all they do.
their attention, yes, solely on calling people out. I don't agree with that.
Me either.
Do you feel as though that I kind of lost my train when I said that. But do you think everyone like has the right to just be able to like call any and everyone out like on social media and just
No.
cuz I feel like even in now, right? I feel like a lot of like pastors and stuff and just people in faith in general are like getting called out one way or the other.
Mhm.
And sometimes I think that a lot of people need to shut their mouths.
I agree. I know I can
Honestly.
think of an account specifically that that's all they do is call people out for being false and fake, and I just feel like there are people who are called to be watchmen, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And that's what you do. But I also do feel like we operate in the spirit of wisdom.
Mhm.
And first of all, I feel like that puts you on a different level. If that's all you do is call people out, you better know nothing better be in your closet. Like you better be living holier than thou. Like literally. And so that's a dangerous game. But I do also feel like I can just speak for myself. I can notice things about people, but that doesn't
Mhm.
mean, even with God revealing things to me about people, that doesn't mean I need to go and tell the world about it. Sometimes I'm just revealed things so I can pray about it. You know what I'm saying? Pray
Mhm.
about it, stand in the gap, know how to deal with that person, know what's good for you and what's not, who's good for you and who's not. It isn't, I feel like that just shows, I'm not specifically talking about no one, but I'm saying I feel like that
Yeah.
kind of shows ignorance in a sense with everything I feel like I see or I get revelation of. I have to go shout it from the mountaintop to everybody. Like, no, I don't
Yeah.
agree with that, in my opinion. I feel like God is God and he don't need nobody's help. So
Mhm.
if somebody's doing something that needs to be exposed or that's going to come out, God's going to reveal it when he sees fit. You know what I'm saying? And then at the same
Yeah.
time, you have to be careful who you're putting your lips on because people can sin, people can fall short, but that doesn't mean that they're not called by God. When we think
Amen
about,
to that,
was
yes.
it was it Solomon? I don't want to misquote it. I don't. No, it was David. It was David. David was a man of God, and we all know David was a man of God. But David also wrote Psalms after he slept with that man's wife, and then
Mhm.
went and got that man killed by sending him on the front line in the battlefield.
Mhm.
That was sin. That was wrong. He shouldn't have done that. And he knew that. He was repentive after that. But that doesn't mean he wasn't called by God, that he wasn't a man of God. And
Mhm.
so still anybody that would try to do harm to David or put their lips on David, vengeance is the Lord's. So
Mhm.
even the same thing with like people calling out pastors and different ministries and stuff like that. That doesn't necessarily mean these people aren't called by God. It just
Yeah.
means they're human and they
Yeah.
need a little more Jesus. They like,
Yes.
so I
I
don't agree with
agree.
that.
I think it is a dangerous game, like you said, and you do have to be careful. And then this just came to my mind too, is that not that I'm like high fiving whatever people are being called out about, but I'm
Mhm.
also like, so are you also holding the people accountable in your life the same way that you
Yeah.
hold others or want to go out on social media and stuff and blast? Because
Yeah. No,
are we
that's
just
true.
are we just doing it with celebrities? Are we
Mhm.
also doing it with our everyday friends
Yeah. Family
that we
members.
family members, so that yeah, that just came to me.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't say what somebody's called to do and not called to do, but I don't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can say it's like sometimes people like want public figures to be held accountable with like so many things. It's like calling
Mhm,
people out for this and that, and they need to be accountable and this and that. And then it's like, are you holding yourself to those same standards that you're holding them to?
mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
I can see like certain people that I may follow or that I may know to be in places of leadership, and I'll see certain things and I'm like, I don't really agree with that.
mhm,
But I do have to still remember that they are a human being.
Human.
Yeah, and sometimes people can just have a moment, or people can some things really just are like, "Whoa, how do you explain
Yeah.
that?" But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like, I'm not their God, so they don't have to answer to me, they have to answer to God. So, I don't know. I don't know, I'm not big on just, like, forcing people to take accountability.
Mhm. I do think, like so, like, I can understand where people come from when they feel because, I mean, people like pastors and stuff, they aren't or just people in general, but we're talking about the church.
Mhm.
But, like, they aren't God, but I can understand, like, people wanting to hold them to a higher standard, and I also think
Absolutely.
that they also too should just be aware of, like, what they do just because of, like, you are in a place of leadership and you you wanna make sure that you are, like, following the word of God if that is, like,
Mhm.
the position that you've accepted, right? Um, I would just only hope that they have people actually in their lives that can hold them accountable and not just,
Yeah.
like, people on social media that are calling them out because, I think personal, not like self-personal, but actually having people in your life personally to be able to be like and correct you is what is really important when it comes to
Yeah.
like pastors and stuff. So, because people are going to say
Yeah.
on social media what they say,
Right.
but that's still not having somebody that actually has access to you. Because at the end of the day, these are people just behind the screens and
Mhm.
typing.
Mhm.
I think it's
And
really
then
important have accountability, like people that know you personally and can like
mhm.
sit down and have those conversations with you.
Yeah. And then it's like in some situations people like to save face.
Mhm.
And so it's like how do I say this? Like okay, so even like you do see someone, say your pastor for instance, and you think your pastor is just like living great and they're really not. Um
Mhm.
but I just feel like who and so say you find the information out. So like you think your pastor is living great, they're really not. Somehow you find the information out. Who told you to go and tell the world though? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm not limiting God. He can very well speak to somebody and say, "Go expose this person." But
Yeah.
it's just like a kingdom divided cannot stand. So
Mhm.
just like how was it the Pharisees or whoever they were casting out demons in Jesus' name, but they weren't
Mhm.
of God, and he
Mhm.
said, "Let them do what they're doing." Basically, mind your business. Sometimes we just need to mind our
What's the
business.
scripture? What is it? First Thessalonians?
Mhm.
Something, because my mom says
Yeah,
it all the time.
yeah, yeah. Like, what is going on? I just feel like you're causing more confusion and chaos than anything.
Mhm. Mhm. I'd rather it come from a reliable source than
Mhm.
than, like, just randomly somebody on social media that is always talking about somebody. But
Mhm.
even still, then, even if it is someone that you would think is reliable, were you led by the Lord or
Right.
yourself?
Right. Exactly. Did God tell you to do that, or you just felt like I know this? It's my job to go tell the world. Like,
Yeah.
not always. Like I said, for one, we see things in part, and then for two, some things aren't meant to be like told. Some things are just meant to be an intercessor.
Mhm. Yes. Valid point there because, mm, it's a lot out there. Thank you all so much for tuning in today's episode. We hope that you stick around with us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we hope to see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Where are you going, sweetie? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as head on over to our lovely TikTok at CuteConvos and don't forget to follow. See you next time.